All right, and welcome to another episode of Ruan Phelan's epic morning show in the morning here. So, what do I really love? I really love these sold signs. Doing more and more of them. But something else that I love are things that are old. Yes. That is today. That is because today is National Appreciate Old Stuff Day. Look it up. It's true. Yeah. So National Appreciate Old Stuff. It kind of has me thinking of, old things, and I really like some of these old things, maybe old tech, I guess, if you would call it that, like a gramophone or an old rotary phone. Going to the arcade was one. I love that whole, how there's the unwritten rule of putting your quarter up. It didn't matter if you're a little kid and you're just kind of in the arcade, and have all the bigger kids that could beat you up, but they didn't care. Your quarter was up, you're next. So it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool little culture, the old arcade. So things that are old are great. But, you also have to balance that with the things that are new. I mean, some of this new tech, you can't beat it. I mean, even though, vinyl's made a resurgence, all sorts of different things have kind of made a comeback, typing on a typewriter, that's kind of, it's some of these hipster things are really, really cool. I mean, I must admit, listening to one of my favorite albums on vinyl is very cool. But with the new tech now, you can have the songs on your phone. You can do this. You can do that. It's great. But new is again very important. And where I'm getting at with this is that data, your data, not that data, but data, like data, is your stats, your monthly stats are technically old because by the time you collect all your stats from what has happened in that month, it's historical. So it's very important to be able to take and decipher your data that's historical and combine that with the knowledge and expertise of someone who's an epic realtor, right? Somebody that's out there in the market doing their thing and paying attention to certain trends that are going on. So while the data will tell you what had happened, an epic realtor, an epic professional will tell you what's going on in the now. They have their finger on the pulse. So, speaking of all this data talk, let's talk about the stats, because they're out. Last time I talked about stats, I was talking about the January stats because we were in February, right? So we were talking about the January stats, and I said, let's do a bit of a comparison next month, January to February, and just see how they're going. I always take a look, whenever I tell you there's if something is up by a certain percentage, like sales are up by a certain percentage, I always go year to year. And the reason for that is because typically, and I know with COVID times, it's almost like a wrench has been thrown into the system. It's not typical. It's not like your typical spring market, that starts in, March, April, right? Or your December market is typically slow. It's things are kind of going a little wonky. But I still want to do that. Let's go from, compare month to month. And so in January, what we're seeing is we saw sales were up by 40% year to year. There was 1,208 sales in January this last year. Now, if we go to February of this year, there was 1,836 sales. So that means that we are up 54%, or 54.3% from February last year. So from February 2020 to February 2021, the difference, we are actually up by 54%. The inventory, so if you know, supply and demand, supply and command, Julian. I love it. I'll do that every time. But supply and demand is, we got to take a look at our sales versus, what's available, what's on the market. So there is 4,000, or in February, there's 4,518. God, got that out there. So that was actually down in inventory by 20.4%. So let's take a look at sales again versus new listings. Sales being 1,836. New listings were actually up as well this last month in February by 13.2%. So it's actually there's not a huge difference between sales and new listings. So leaving you with a month's supply. So that's kind of dictating what a balanced market is, or what a buyer's market, what a seller market is. Very close to being a balanced market. Maybe a little bit on the seller's market side, depending on what you're looking for. Because, again, there's different segments of the market that are doing better than others. So you can't broad strokes. You can't be using broad strokes when you're looking at this thing. So this is why over the next few days I am going to cover some of the some of the smaller, some of the refined searches, like how condos are doing per se versus single family detached homes. We'll take a look at a few different communities and how they're doing. If there is something that you want an episode done on, maybe you're like, what is how are single family detached homes doing in Mayland Heights? Leave a comment down there and I'll see it, and I will probably do an episode on how the single family detached homes are doing in Mayland Heights, or whatever community that you may live in. And we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll jam on it. So, so that's where we're at. Things are still moving. Sales are up. That's really good news. Again, low interest rates. That is the thing that is really kind of pushing the market forward, I believe. And low inventory, of course, that is what is kind of making supply and demand. If we see an increase in dollar value, then or your benchmark pricing, if that's going up, that's because supply and demand. Now, remember to leave a comment, do the whole thumbs up thing, heart, and go out, appreciate something old. Whether that's a family member or whether that's something that you haven't taken a look at in a while, like a trinket that you have, or something that you have that's old. Go out and appreciate it for its oldness. And then, and only then, until next time, stay epic. Epic.